Welcome to Stage Explorations, where we interview the theater creatives and artists from the theater world, those who perform on stage that the audience sees, and those behind the theater stage that the audience almost never sees. I am a journalist and theater fan, Buell Brown, and today's guest is...
I'm Joe Bravaco, the playwright of The One Good Thing, or Are You Patrick Swayze? If you want to learn more about my play, come to the theater.
First question is, when did you first fall in love with theater, and why did you have to be part of the theater world?
Actually, the first time my parents took me to the theater, I fell in love with it. And I was 11 years old, and my brother was 14. And I walked out of that place, and it was like nothing I've ever seen. And, it was funny. As much as I loved it, I never wanted to get into the acting. I was fascinated by the movements on stage and the design of everything. And then that led to, when I was in early teens, I started reading a lot of theater, a lot of plays by William Inge, especially. I started with Inge, and then I was precocious and was reading Tennessee Williams. And I said, this is something I would love to do, But it was very early, And I remember I wrote a one-act play when I was, I think, 14 or 15, sophomore year of high school, and I gave it to my English teacher to read. And well, he said he was impressed. Who knows? But he was very nice about it. So that kind of encouraged me.
When did you fall in love with writing, and when did it go from an interest to an obsession?
I would never say my writing was an obsession, because I remember a review I read of a Terrence McNally off-Broadway play when he was first starting out, and their critic in the Times said, Terrence McNally writes plays like other people eat breakfast. And I thought, wow, that's great. To be that prolific. I'm not. I mean, I really have to be hit with something, and which drives me. Or I have to have somebody on top of me saying, let's do this, and I'll write it. I love writing. When I get into writing, I am lost. Nothing can get in the way of it. I will just sit there for hours and write and write and write. I don't eat, which is a great way to diet, but I have but I don't do it enough. Let's put it that way. I don't do it enough. I was a teacher for many years, and I taught drama and I taught writing, and that preoccupied a lot of my time. But I really have to be struck with an idea before I could sit down and write something.
Theater experience, why is it such a unique format, both for the audience and the actors on stage?
Well, the theater experience, for the audience, it's once in a lifetime. You never see the same performance twice, which is why I could see a play 6 or 7 times, but I will not watch a movie more than twice. The movie's always the same. I mean, you can get different things out of a film once you've seen it once, once you've seen it twice. But I love the idea that when you go to a play, and if there's a replacement cast, it takes on a whole different, not so much meaning, but a perspective. And you really get another look at something that's unique. And I used to tell my students when I taught them, I said, you go to a play, you're there once in a lifetime experience. No one else is going to see that except the other 500 people that you're sitting with, and that's what's wonderful about it. That's just one. I love that. That's the thing I love,
How do you come up, and what is your process in creating a play?
It's very different. The process of creating plays comes from different ideas. My first thing that I wrote with a collaborator, we saw a film about Doc Holliday in the OK Corral, and we wanted to write a musical version of that story, which we did. So that was a lot of historical research. I wrote a play based on Herman Melville's only comic novel, again with my collaborator, who that musical was called Sundown, about Doc Holliday. My collaborator on that, he and I wrote this Israel Potter, which is Herman Melville's only comic novel, and that got some. It got into a couple of regional theaters. But for this play, for The One Good Thing, it was inspired by music. I had been listening to the soundtrack of an Irish film, And I use a song actually at the end of the first act and the end of the second act that inspired the film. Inspired the play. And I do a lot of walking in the morning, and I had my headset on, and I was listening to this over and over, and it just characters came to me out of this, and I was fascinated by the way that I would put different scenes as I was walking in my head, and then come home and write them down, and then I would have to juggle them for the script to make the script work. But it's been a wonderful process. It is the fastest thing I've ever written. The fastest thing.
You launched into my next question. You already answered it. Where did the idea come from? Or do you want to go more detail about that?
Well, I could go a little bit more detail on where the idea came from, although I didn't even know it. It had to be pointed out to me. I was talking to a friend and I said, you know, this came so quickly. I've never written anything so quickly. And he said to me, because it's so personal. And I said, no, it's not. And then when I thought about it, yeah, it kind of is. You know, there's a lot of personal things in the script, how I feel about certain people and certain things. And so maybe that helped a lot. Maybe that helped a lot. That it was something in me that I didn't even know was coming out. It started as, interestingly enough, it started as a one act. I wrote it as a one act. It won a couple of competitions, one in Ireland and a couple in the States. And my sister-in-law said, you know, well, one act can only go so far. She says, why don't you expand it? And I did, and I've been having some luck with it. So it's been a rather unique experience for me because the musicals and the Israel Potter play, they took a long time. They took a long time. So this was a rather unique experience.
So tell us the main story arc for the play, The Good One Thing, or Are You Patrick Swayze?
The name, the one good thing is really almost the theme of it. I don't want to give away too much, but one of the characters talks about the one good thing in life that we leave behind. And the subtitle, or Are You Patrick Swayze, is they play a game, they play a movie game. You know, who am I? And they give out clues. And one of the guesses is, Are you Patrick Swayze? Which also ties into what's happening in the play.
I know you don't want to do any spoilers, but can you at least tell us about the beginning of the play, right when it starts?
Sure. It's two brothers in Ireland. They have a small cottage on the cliffs of the Irish Sea. And one morning, one of the brothers tells the other, Jamie tells his brother Tommy, that he's dead and he's a ghost. And that happens about maybe maybe about 10 minutes into the script. And it takes off from there. Is he dead? Is he not dead? And we really don't find out what's going on. All the puzzle doesn't come together really until the very end of the play, which is, well, there's an interesting thing that when I was expanding it, Act One ends with the question, is he dead or not? And I thought, well, maybe that should end the play. And I thought, no, that's kind of a cliche. So Act One still ends with, is he dead or not? And then Act Two begins where you think, well, wait a minute, he's alive. But then you think, or is he? So it goes on a little bit further than that. And I think what it says about grief and forgiveness and redemption, it can touch a lot of people. So far, I've heard great things about how they're moved by it.
What are the overall themes of this play?
Well, it's the themes are really about the eternal. The two brothers find the eternal in their fraternal bond. There's a whole thing about guilt and grief and forgiveness and redemption and love. And the thing about love is one of the brothers feels that he has never been loved. And as a result of that, he is incapable of being loved. He has, his mother has died, and she is the only one that he feels said, I love you, and meant it. His brother has never said it because he's just cold in a certain respect. He has a problem with his father. His sister-in-law says, I love you to everybody, so he doesn't think it means anything. And he had a partner who, well, cheated on him, and that's over. So he didn't feel any love there. And when you feel that you are unloved or incapable of being loved, it's hard to live with. So that's basically the theme about these two brothers coming together, and with their guilt, with the forgiveness, and with the redemption by the end.
What do you want the audience to get out of your play?
Oh, I want them hopefully to see something within themselves that they have, like, maybe they haven't said the things that they should say to people that they love. There's a what can I say? There's a not so much a moral, but I when we did a reading of this, someone was in tears at the end of it, and said, I was thinking of my brother at this point. We're doing this in, I don't know if you know, we're doing this in England in April, the end of April. And the director, it was very, very moved by it because of a relationship he has with his brother that's kind of similar to the one in the play. So you want them to kind of look at this, maybe see themselves in it, maybe recognize something that they've done wrong and maybe change. It's hard for a lot of people to say I love you. You could say it very superficially. As the sister-in-law, she's not in the play, but they talk about her, and she says I love you to everything. Every time she hangs up the phone, instead of saying goodbye, she says I love you. And one brother asked the other, Jamie, who's not married, asked his brother Tommy, well, does that make you jealous when she says I love you on the phone? He says no. And he says, of course not, because she doesn't mean it. So there's a depth to love that maybe we all don't reach.
As a playwright, when you see this play performed, what are you hoping to get out of it?
Oh, wow. What do I hope to get out of seeing the play performed? Well, I hope to see the audience moved by it. I think that's what I'm really, really want to see. I saw a couple of plays in my lifetime where I could not get out of my seat after they ended. I'm not comparing myself to these plays. These are classic, brilliant plays. But when I first saw Our Town, I couldn't move. First production I saw, Glass Menagerie, could not move. There was a play called, you probably know it, Sam Hunter's A Case for the Existence of God. Brilliant play. Wiped me out. And I'm not comparing myself to that, but I would like maybe just a few people to sit there after it's over and not be able to move because they've been moved by it.
The most important question, why should people go see your play?
Oh boy. Why should people see my play? Well, there's always family dynamics that are rough going. You don't have to be two guys, two brothers. I mean, there's a lot going on here between the brothers, between the father and the one son. Has a very different relationship to the father and the other son. There's a relationship with the mother that these boys had, which is very different. So there's a lot of family dynamics going on, and I wish that people could, like I said, see themselves in some of these dynamics, and maybe recognize that things can change, and they don't always have to be that way. They change in the play, but perhaps without giving away too much. Perhaps it's too late.
Is there anything else about your play that you want to mention I haven't asked about?
Let me think. Anything? Well, about the play, like I mentioned a little bit before, it can be a little obtuse, and I don't mean that in a Beckett way. I mean, what exactly is being happening? Again, I don't want to give away too much. But there's two scenes in the play that you would maybe go back and say, wait a minute, and then at the end of the play, you said, if you're listening, you get it. So what I'm hoping the actors will do, will get the lines that kind of help and let you know what the play is about. They'll get that. So I talked to the director, and she was very open, and we talked about what I would like to see. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this because they are going to also give me a video of it. So it's going to be really interesting. I don't want to plays. I don't like when plays tell you exactly what to think, but or how to feel. I like to walk out of the theater debating what really happened, and I hope that's what my play can do.
Would you say this is a play worth seeing a second time, and at the same time bringing additional friends to see it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to see it as probably, no, have to, of course, but you should see it a second time. You should see this play a second time because I think once you go in and you talked about it and maybe you have two different ideas, you could really you'll zero in. But no, I think you're right. That's a great question. I think it's a play that deserves to be seen a second time. Hi, I'm Joe Bravaco. I am the playwright of The One Good Thing, or are you Patrick Swayze? The play is a two-act play, could be performed without an intermission. And I think it's a play that is going to have people guessing what's going on a little bit. I think it's a play. I hope it's a play that's going to touch people, maybe have them reflect on their own lives, maybe have them change a little bit. And I hope you'll all come and see it because I loved writing it and I would love to have you see it. And I'll see you at the theater.
Thank you for listening or watching this podcast episode of Stage Explorations. To learn more about the theater creative and more theater creatives and artists on Stage Explorations, go to www.stageexplorations.com. Once again, that is www.stageexplorations.com. There is no space between stage and explorations. You may find more videos, podcasts, and information about this theater creative and other theater creatives and artists on Stage Explorations YouTube channel. Looking forward to seeing you in the theater.